Hey folks, this is Keith Lancaster of the Acappella Musicianary Podcast. Today we have a special treat. Gary Moyers is with us.
Hey.
We affectionately call him Mo. Mo is a song leader, let's start with the most important. He's a follower of Jesus. He's
Absolutely.
a husband. He's a father. He is a grandfather now.
Yeah.
He's a worship minister. He is a former a cappella full-time singer. He's a songwriter, composer, a trainer, musician.
Stop, man. You can stop.
instrumentalist. Mo, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Wow.
You're looking good there, Keith.
It's good to see you, my brother.
You too, man.
You've been in a cappella. You were in a cappella probably longer than anybody else, because over that 40 plus year history, 43 years, we've had a lot of different singers come and go.
Yeah, we have. I think I'm right there neck and neck with Wes. Either he's a year ahead of me, or I'm a year ahead of him, or something. I don't know.
Talking about Wes McKenzie. Yeah,
right, yeah.
So how did it come about that you became a member of a cappella?
You want the whole story or the short story?
We'll start with the short story and we'll embellish.
Okay. All right. So I guess it was 84, maybe? Wait. Yeah, 84. You were still called His Image, and you came down to Lubbock Christian, where I was a student, to do some kind of an event in the summer. And I thought, man, I want to see this. And I had already got to the point where I felt like I wanted to be in some kind of a music ministry. I didn't know what. Just kind of praying for God to show me something. And then you showed up, and I did a fabulous, program that night. And then afterwards, I'm in the lobby, and you approached me. I don't know how you knew who I was. Guess you had your feelers out. I have no idea.
Yeah, somebody must have told me about this talented guy named Gary Moyers.
Yeah. Paid political advertisement. So you approached me and said, "Hey, Gary, I got this great idea." I'm thinking, okay, what? He said, "I want to form this new group. We'll call it Acappella Vocal Band. It's going to be 12, maybe 14 guys. They're going to do the violin, the flute, the drums, all the other parts, the trombone." I was thinking, oh, that's kind of cool. He said, "I want you to be a part of it. Can you do it?" I said, "Well, that sounds great. I am engaged. Is that okay?" He said, "Oh, okay, bye." You were gone like that.
People don't understand. It was hand to mouth trying to start a full-time singing ministry, and people won't believe that a cappella, when we started out, we asked people for sack lunches to take with us on the road the next day, because it was, as far as love offerings, we got a lot of love and not much offering. So you're right.
We were still doing that when we were still doing that sack lunch thing when I actually joined the group.
Really?
4 years later, yeah. So the second time you came back, I had already graduated. This would have been probably 87, summer of 87. Yeah, it was. And you had the vocal band touring with you at the time, and you stopped in Lubbock for Encounter, which is Lubbock Christian's summertime youth camp.
You're talking about AVB, which was our backup singing group at the time, a cappella vocal band. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. So you found me again in the lobby, and you approached me and said, "Hey, I need a road manager and a first tenor for AVB." And at this point, I knew that I needed to do this. I asked you for a night to consider and pray about it, and I came to the conclusion that I was working in Crane. I had already finished 1 year of teaching in the thriving metropolis of Crane, Texas. If you're in Crane,
Band director, music.
I was teaching middle school choir, high school choir, and helping with percussion in the band.
Gotcha.
And I just felt like I had already committed to them to come back. And the little church there in Crane, I was one of the leaders there, and I'd already told them I was coming back. I just didn't feel like I could back out on that. So I, the next morning, I wrote a note and a letter and just kind of stuck it on your door and ran. You remember that?
No. You left me a note and ran away.
So the next March, really February-ish, you called me and said that you needed to shift things around in acapella, and that you were interested in me to sing first tenor and be road manager for that. Same thing you wanted for the vocal band, AVB. And I said, well, let's talk. So I flew out in March during spring break, and you and I just sat and played a lot and grabbed some instruments and did some bluegrass and had a lot of fun. Didn't sing a whole lot, but and then I was there the the next June 8th,
So
88.
the offer kept getting bigger and bigger,
It did.
and more important, you held
Just
out.
hold out, man. Hold out. I
So,
failed
so,
upward.
so at that point, you moved to my hometown, where Acappella was headquartered, Paris, Tennessee.
Right.
You've spoken highly of your time.
Oh, I love Paris. I love Paris. It's a great town. I'm sure it still is. You know, it was about 10,000 people when I was there, and or something like that. And just everybody knew everybody, and just friendly and slow, and just right exactly what I wanted, what we needed.
Paris, Tennessee is a great place. It was a great place to grow up, and
Yeah.
and it sounds like you really enjoyed being there. Now,
Very much.
wasn't it Mac Davis, the country music artist, that wrote about your hometown?
Right.
And it wasn't as positive. He said, "Happiness is Lubbock, Texas,
in the rearview mirror.
in my rearview mirror."
Right. But no one remembers the end of the song. You know, it changes. Happiness is Lubbock, Texas, growing nearer and dearer. That's the part we.
There you go. Yeah. So
Good
you
old
moved
Mac.
you moved to Paris, and we were transitioning to a different makeup of the group.
Yeah. You know, it was a duet, you and Rodney, and then you came off the road. Well, I mean, you were still out a lot, but you stopped as part of the main front group, and left it to me and Rodney and Wayburn and George, and that was a pretty big transition, you know.
Little did you know that you would be going to Africa and Europe and China and South America and Canada and all over the world. What comes to your mind as one of the most unusual places or experiences on your concert tours?
Oh, there's several. I remember flying to Barrow, Alaska a couple of times. You know, it's not called that anymore. It's Ungunkavit or something. I can't even pronounce it. But it's the most northern city. I think there's one in Russia that's a little further, like 5 miles more north, but it's way above the Arctic Circle. And it's mostly natives who live there and oil workers. And the first time we went, it was during the season where there was no night, in the land of fadeless day.
And there is no night there.
Exactly. And they had just the locals had just finished their well harvest, and at the beach just outside of town there was, like, I think 6 or 7 well carcasses out there, and we had polar bear warnings in town. So
What?
yeah,
In the city limits?
in the city limits, right? Yeah. Of course, it's not much to the city. You know, it's not very big, but yeah, polar bear warnings. But it was fun. Yeah, that was a crazy one.
I've never heard of such. What do you think is stranger than that? As far as
It's hard to get stranger than that. But we did. Let's see. There was the Holland. I love going to Holland. Holland was a great place.
yeah, I wasn't
Great
with you on
people.
that trip. Yeah, tell me about that.
So friendly. We did a festival there one time. I'm not even sure. Maybe in Utrecht. I'm not sure. But they gave us instructions. We flew in, and some folks picked us up at the airport and drove us out. And it was a massive outdoor festival. There was 3 stages. It was out in the countryside. There was nothing really around anywhere except for these 3 apartments side by side that where all the talent stayed. And so we got there late one night, and jet lagged, and got ready for bed. And about 11:30 at night, someone comes knocking on the door. Acappella, acappella, time for sound check. So we got up, dragged ourselves out of bed, went and did sound check, and found out that the concert was at 12:30 that night. No one had told us that, so we sang, and had a great event. It was wonderful. And then it went back to the little place to sleep, and got up the next morning kind of lazily. There's no rush to get up. We'd already done our thing. Opened the door, and there's no one. I mean, it's just, as far as you can see, just empty space. Overnight, they had the festival had ended. They had torn it down, and there's no tents, no trash, no nothing. It's like the disappearing festival. It was
Wow.
like, did that really happen?
Wow.
I guess we were too tired to hear anything because it went away.
Wow.
And so we had told Tom and Margaret Kincannon to come, pick us up afterwards, but we had told them to look for the festival.
And there was no festival at that time.
No festival. so, so we know they're near. This is long before texting and GPS was a thing, but you had the TomTom Goes. This is a long time ago, and so and we're overseas, so our brick phones, they don't have an international plan, so we literally uh, had to go outside and start walking around through the forest yelling, "Tom, Margaret!" And eventually we hear it from far off, "Gary!" So that was fun. That was a weird experience. We're pretty strange, pretty.
Hey, now where was it that you told me that you had left the stage, and I think the crowd wanted an encore. They kept singing La Song.
Yeah.
La 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 la. Was that in Holland or somewhere else? La, la,
that happened
la,
several
la.
times, but yeah, Holland was one of them. Yeah, we tried to leave the stage, and they just kept singing it. And at that particular event, they had these massive. They weren't LED walls; they were just colored lights, colored lamps. Well, so it was what LED walls would become, but it was basic technology. But I mean, they were 30 feet tall. It was like a 3-story building behind you of my face, and that was really really weird. But we finished the thing, and they just kept going. It was like a sports event, really. They just kept going. So he came back out and started the song again.
Wow.
That's pretty easy to do when you're not a cappella group,
You mentioned something before about Jamaica and how it was unusual or off the scale.
Yeah, pretty similar event. I think it was. I bet the one you're referring to is in Kingston. We had a daytime concert, afternoon concert at an amphitheater outdoors, and it sat about 1,500 or so. And I think the final count was 6,000 that were crammed into that place. And we got out and started singing, and so did they. And they were louder than we were. Those Jamaicans are nuts. They knew every lyric to every song and sang everything with us louder than
the concert speakers, which were super loud.
You got 6,000 Jamaicans singing at the top of their lungs, and it was pretty crazy. So after the concert, what we would always do, we go down and they'd come off the side of the stage and shake hands and go to the lobby, which here there was no lobby, it was outdoors. So we just finished the concert and stepped off the side and went down and were immediately mobbed. It was kind of our own Beatles Shea Stadium experience. It was really
They're circling the car.
yeah. So the security ran in and grabbed us and threw us. Our wives were there. They were already in the van, and they literally just kind of pushed us into the van. But then the thousands of people surrounded the van, and we couldn't move. And they started rocking the van back and forth, singing our songs as they're rocking.
What?
And,
Rocking the van?
Yeah. So finally, the driver just said, "Hold on, we're going," and he hit the gas, and the sea kind of parted, and we went out. It was
Man.
That's the only place that ever happened to us. It was really.
Did that make your head swell that, hey, these people love our music?
Yeah, they did, absolutely, and they still do. I talk to Jamaicans a lot, and I still hear get a lot of messages about it. And,
Now, you probably had the opposite experience. I've been blessed to go a lot of places with acapella around the world, but not. Didn't you go to China when acapella went there? I bet
Yes.
that was a total different experience than
completely
Jamaica,
different.
and it was
Yeah.
probably
We
hard.
were accepted wonderfully, but it wasn't the crazy Shea Stadium stuff. No, we went with a company out of Canada
Mm-hmm.
it was actually a Christian company. They're long gone now, but they were an undercover Christian company, and so they sponsored cultural exchange tours. They'd bring multiple artists with them who are all Christians, and they would have it. In our particular case, we were in Kunming, and we were at the minority university, which means anybody but the Han clan. And, they called it a small town of 28 million or something like that. So
But that was a culture shock for you, wasn't
it
it?
was big time. We stopped in somewhere in Thailand for a 3-day training on the way, and boy, they told us do not mix or intermingle with the church there, the underground church, because there was a Christian group that had come through before and toured 8 cities and had met with the church, and then when they left, the government swooped in and they disappeared.
Hmm.
So we had to be really, really careful. And so we sang, I think it was eight or 9 times, 9 times in 8 days. That's what it was. We ended up
Wow.
having to go on national TV. It was the governor of that province had a birthday, and it was a nationwide celebration and a TV show, and they had us come on and sing Happy Birthday.
Wow.
Plus, I can't remember what song we sang. We sang a song as well. Hush. We sang Hush.
Yeah. You've sung so many places, so many concerts. What was the most unexpected thing that happened, experience during a concert that you can remember?
That was probably South Bend, Indiana.
Yeah. What happened there?
I passed out.
Wait. I think I remember this story. What? Wait, during the concert while you're on stage?
Yeah. Well, that was just after our greatest hits, the collection came out, and we put a 9-minute medley on that. And so during the concert, we would sing the melody live, and we would sit on stools. Well, it was more, the stools we had weren't just the four-legged straight. It was the kind that crossed, the legs crossed, and you folded it up and put it away. Easier to carry on the truck. So we're about 2/3 of the way through this song, and through this medley, and one of the latches on, on my stool lets go, and I go straight down.
No.
And I had my ankles on the lower rung, and so the chair seat collapsed onto my ankles. Of course, I'm on the chair seat, so I'm squashed into accordion down. I can't get my feet out, and I just kind of roll to the side, and I'm in a lot of pain, and I realized, oh, they're turning down the monitors because it was getting quieter. I thought, okay, yeah, that's good. They're killing the sound, so so it's not as embarrassing. And then I realized they're turning down the lights too because they don't really want everybody to see me laying on. And wait, I'm passing out. I came to this realization.
They weren't turning down the lights or the audio. It was you passing out.
So I thought this quick prayer, Lord, don't let me pass out here on stage. And immediately everything comes back. And
Reboot.
Exactly. Yeah. Of course, along with that came the pain.
That's like the worst thing that can happen on stage.
Oh, it was. And I knew, of course, our rule, never stop a song. Because 90% of the time, folks don't know there was an issue. This time they knew there was an issue. But listen, it was Ken and Barry and Kevin. They got their mics, they're singing, they're looking over here at me like, oh no, what do we do? They're kind of reaching out, trying to help me.
And they kept
And we're
singing.
still singing, and I'm barely making it through. And I realize that the final song of the medley, the time has come, it's coming up. And that's my lead. And I'm still on my side. So I kind of reach over, I see the mic laying on the ground in front of me. So I reach over and grab it. I'm laying on my side, and then it hits. Time is come. I make it through.
That's
And then
not a good
finally
memory.
some guy off stage realizes what I need. They go and get me a chair and prop me up in the chair, and we do Well on My Way, and we're done.
In the chair.
In the chair, right. 'Cause I can't stand. My right ankle swelled up about the size of a watermelon. It was massive.
How didn't you fall off the stage another time or am I thinking of someone else?
I think we've all fallen off the stage at one point or another. Wayne was a master of falling off the stage. We were doing, was it ACMS? I can't remember. It was Footloose. It was Footloose in Dallas, I think.
Yeah, that was like a Christian club in Dallas.
Right. It was packed. Another one of those, 700 seat capacity, and there was 1,200 in there. And they had a big black curtain on the back of the stage, drapes. And at some point he backed up and disappeared. It's gone.
Gone. He gone.
And then he popped right back up through the curtains. Keeps going. Yeah, Kevin fell off stage a couple of times. I can't remember me falling off. I may have, man.
So you grew up. You've played mandolin, guitar, banjo, bass guitar, keyboards, all these different instruments.
Yeah, dobro, all those kind of things.
You've been in all kinds of bands, different styles of bands, and how would you describe the difference in planning, playing music, arranging music? You're an arranger, songwriter. How do you describe the difference of a cappella singing in general, especially a cappella group, versus that instrumental background?
That's a good question. Yeah, a band, and of course, everyone, you ask 10 different people this question, and 10 different people give you 10 different answers. But for me, at least right now, a band working with a band of a country band or a worship band, whatever it is, it's more about uh, timing and groove and sort of the feel of things. It's about supporting the lead vocalist because as an instrumentalist, it's so easy to just want to cut loose and do your thing all the time, but you can't do that. You got to fill the holes. You got to take turns with the rest of the instruments. So leading a band like that, there's a lot of management that has to happen. And, it's not so much about tuning because you do that in advance. So that's not really, unless you're a guitarist and you're bending like crazy. But it's more about managing the group. And there's a big difference in playing with, obviously beginners, but like enthusiasts, I guess you could say, and professionals. Professionals, it's so nice to just step in and everyone knows their role. Whereas enthusiasts overplay. And that takes a lot of management.
Well, you talk about filling in the gaps and arranging for a cappella music. So many of our songs come from radio and from instrumental settings. We're arranging them for a cappella. How do you fill in those gaps? I've noticed a song like Glorify Thy Name.
Yeah.
If you have a band and a metronome and a drum set, it just fills in the gap nicely. But when you're singing with people and they stop singing, it's like they cut out 2 or 3 beats, to jump into the next.
Radio silence, right, right. And as an arranger, that's one of my first considerations when I'm listening to a song, because you can arrange any song to fill the gaps, but the more you do that, the less congregational I think the arrangement's going to be. So when you're thinking for congregationally, as you're fully aware, because you've done how many songs now with Praise and Harmony?
700 plus.
Yeah, I knew it was over 700.
725.
You have to consider what the church is going to be able to sing, what they're going to be able to understand, because 95% of most congregations are not professional singers.
Right. Exactly.
Or even part-time singers. They're just people who come in to worship, and most of them can't read music.
So what about the song leader? What hurdles, what are the challenges for the song leader in an a cappella setting?
Boy, I tell you, the song leader has to be very comfortable with the song. Mm-hmm. It's similar to instrumentation in that respect. Because if you don't know the song well yourself, you're going to be concentrating on just getting through it, and you're hitting your marks, and not able to do directing. I'm talking a cappella now, obviously. The song itself has to almost be an afterthought, because you're not concentrating on it. You're concentrating on leading the church and drawing them out as a choir. Leading them into things that they aren't familiar with, like dynamics. It's a very small percentage of leaders out there who actually lead dynamics at church. They're just counting time. But the church loves it when you do that, because a lot of times it brings a whole new meaning to the song. You know that. Well,
how do you train song leaders and encourage them to improve?
Yeah. Well, obviously one thing is take them to WLI.
The Worship Leader Institute. You're one of our coaches for the Worship Leader Institute. Wouldn't you say there's nothing that replaces that hands-on,
absolutely
instant feedback, customized coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing like WLI. I mean, there are other singing schools that I've been to, but there's nothing like WLI. It's a wonderful experience. If you haven't been and you're interested in leading, I would strongly encourage you to do that. But if you want to get better as a worship leader, as a song director, you got to spend some time with someone who knows something, who knows how to do it better than you do, who has experience in how it goes, and the heart for doing it correctly, and sharing, teaching training your replacement, basically. And that's what I do here at Broadway. I lost one. One just moved away, so I've got 4 other leaders, and I'm constantly
mentoring them.
Do what?
You're mentoring.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about mentoring. I'm bringing a couple of them with me to WLI this year, So much so, the other two are out of town, so I don't have anybody to lead worship for me that week. That week we're gone. So I'm, hey Keith, what are you doing that weekend?
Hey, I'm glad you mentioned that if they want to improve, because I guess that's one of my issues when I talk to someone who has a beautiful voice and is gifted, but they're too young or immature to understand that all of us could improve by being lifelong learners.
Yeah.
And it really bothers me when someone says, oh, why would I want to improve? I'm thinking, oh my, because and I'll hear that people say, well, our song leader, he's a band director at high school. So, and I said, yeah, we have band directors and full-time worship ministers who come and people with PhD and voice performance, and all of us can improve, but it just seems like sometimes and it's not just the younger guys, but often it's the younger guys who they've been fed so many times by people saying, oh, you've got a great voice, you've got a great voice. Well, there's more to it, don't you think, than just having a beautiful voice that covers up other ways that you could be improving.
Yeah, absolutely. In this situation, ignorance is not bliss. The more you know, the better you get. And it's a heart position, I think, for people who think they're good enough. And I don't think they consciously think, I'm the best, or I don't need to get better. I think they're just comfortable with where they're at, And I think there are some who are maybe anxious, maybe challenged by trying to get better because they don't want to, I don't know what the reasoning is.
Comfort zone? Yeah.
Yeah, and I got a couple of guys I've been working on for years who won't come, who won't try to get better because, for whatever reason, they think they're okay where they're at. And
Yeah.
when I first came, the first year I went, I had already taught a couple of classes from long distance, like this,
Mm-hmm.
like 3 years or so, something like that, maybe 4. I don't even know now. But no matter how seasoned you are, start at the beginning. The foundations are important.
Right.
Because a lot of times that gets skipped over for what's more fun.
Yeah. Hey, let's go back to Acappella. Do you, and you've probably been asked this before, and sometimes I'm caught off guard when people ask me, what was your favorite album? You've been on so many of the albums with Acappella. Do you have a favorite album or song? Or
Yeah, I think Set Me Free is probably my favorite album.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I've always felt like that was kind of the Abbey Road for Acappella. It's
Hitting a
sort of
stride.
the penultimate, everyone was at their best, and the songs were great, and production was spot on. And I think the guys got to the point where they felt the freedom. We felt the freedom to be able to throw stuff in and make suggestions and do unauthorized stuff that was good enough to keep.
Did you write A Long Way to Go?
Yeah, a long time ago, yeah.
That was on Set Me Free. I love you talking about expressing and putting in extra parts. Who came up with that bass line? Bow.
Yeah, that was
Dwayne
me.
was doing. That
That
was
was me.
Huh?
And I had a little, back in the old days, those little MIDI 4-track band things that had a sequencer in it, and you can play.
Yeah.
And that's where I came up. That actually had some sample sequences in it, and there was one very similar to that little run. I thought
It was like a Jamaican reggae. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a thing, still do, for our Caribbean friends and their style of music.
Well, I remember when you weren't as confident in your songwriting, and I said, "You've got the ability." And it seems like you said, "Let me give it another shot." And you wrote "Drop in the Bucket" for one of our children's albums, and it was
the first one. Yeah.
Wow! And then after that, you became very prolific.
I guess I sort of write on demand. I don't do a lot of writing for the fun of it. Maybe it's because I just don't have time or
Right.
whatever. You encouraged me to write another one, and so I went back and listened to artists that I liked a lot and thought, what can I do? Michael W. Smith was the one that I got Drop in the Bucket from, stylistically.
Yeah.
It wasn't his stuff. It just, the style was kind of his.
Right. I have a memory of Acappella, and it was at your dad's funeral.
Yeah.
Acappella was there. We had backup. I think was Denise Sweet and Dwayne. Were they backup singers at the time, or were they? That was when they were backup singers.
Macy was there. Yeah.
And all of us, we were there in Lubbock, and it seems like your instruction was, don't hold back, celebrate. Let's
Yeah.
celebrate. Isn't that what you said?
Exactly what it was. Yeah. My father died. We were on tour with AVB, and we were in Oklahoma heading for Texas. And I got a call that my father had had a stroke. So I hopped in the car and went down immediately. And he didn't last a couple of days. And you guys were already heading that way. So, y'all said we want to sing. I said, do it. So when come the day of the funeral, y'all were back in the fellowship hall. I just walked back there. That's exactly what I said. Be yourselves. Don't hold back. I don't think I realized the ramifications of what that was going to be.
People are still talking about that. It was
They
like
are.
a
They are.
revival. It wasn't the low energy funeral atmosphere you'd
It was
think.
not.
It was just a revival, and we were jamming,
Yeah.
but we were celebrating that he'd gone to heaven.
Yeah. A life well lived and a graduation. And there are people, clapping and stomping and standing up, and it was a concert. It was a totally spur of the moment, not planned, feel the spirit, hold down spiritual concert. It was great.
What do you think is the best, back to congregational singing, what's the best way to encourage everybody to sing? So many people are self-conscious about their voices.
As audience or as leaders?
Yeah, how can we get the congregation to want to sing instead of just listening?
Song choice is a big part of that.
Yeah.
If you can keep the joy and excitement up,
There you go.
that draws people in.
Contagious.
Right. And they it gets to the point where they're really enjoying it, and it's kind of hard not to sing.
You've taught a lot of technical classes at Worship Leader Institute and other places, and you're so skilled in that area. What AI? I remember hearing you talk about AI and worship and singing and music. What's the most surprising thing to you about AI and music?
I think, I don't know, I'll call it surprising. At this point, not much surprises me because AI is able to do anything at this point. But I remember when the promise of AI first started about 5 years ago or so. They were saying, "Oh, it's going to go for this industry or that industry or whatever first," and music was never mentioned. At least in the articles I was reading and future forecasts. And lo and behold, music seems to be one of the first things that AI went after. Because now you can do, you can have it write your own songs, and then it'll sing it for you, and then you can get a live person who's AI to do it in concert for you. It'll do music video. It'll do the whole, every bit of the industry can be done with AI now. So that's a challenge. Because I think it honestly, it dumbs down the public.
Mm-hmm.
Because the quality of the stuff that's out, at least right now, is middling at best, and it's being accepted as incredible because it's AI. And so that's a challenge for singers.
I was in one of your classes, and you asked the AI to write a song about turtle soup or something that, right, in the style of the Eagles, or what was it?
Yeah, we started with the Eagles. We did some other styles as well, and
it was amazing. And then a second example, you took one of the songs I wrote, fed it the lyrics, and told it what style.
Yeah,
and I thought it sounded, because it wasn't the music that I'd written, but the lyrics. Everybody said, but nobody did. And then you started playing that, and I was like, "Hey, wait, that's better than my song."
And that's the other thing. Songwriting has changed drastically now because AI writes music so well. I was talking to Kevin the other day, Kevin Schaefer, and he had written a song that was really pretty good, and he had a problem with either the bridge or the third verse or something. I said, "Hey, well, why don't you just throw it into AI?" I gave him one of the websites and said, he'd never used it before. I said, "Just see what it does. See if it gives you some ideas." Well, he put the whole thing in, and it came out better than what he was doing. And then he was really conflicted. What do you do now? Do I go with what AI wrote, or do I?
Yeah, what do you do? Do you say written by Kevin and artificial intelligence? Yeah. People are sending us stuff saying, "Hey, here's a song that I fed to AI, and here, would you use it?" I'm like, we're not accepting unsolicited material now, but that
it's craziness right now. So AI has upended the industry in just about every way at this point. So all we can do is just keep doing what we're doing, and hopefully that it'll be recognized as.
We like, especially with Acappella, we've done quite a few singing cruises. You were on the very first one. Was it 91 or so?
The test cruise, or
Oh no, I was thinking about the one with Marvin Phillips where we. But
on the small.
do you even know how many cruises you've been on with singing cruises? Memories there.
Yeah, I remember that. I think it was the first one that you're talking about. It was on a smaller ship. None of the cruise lines are small,
Right.
but this was kind of the smallest of the big boats. And our auditorium, which was the theater, was at the front and top of the ship. You remember that?
Wow.
And we went through like 3 different storms that week. And so we were being thrown all over the stage trying to sing. Imagine us doing Everybody Said with that crazy choreography.
I remember you guys moving.
Fall,
You couldn't help yourself because you were all moved in sync from one side of the stage to the other. Wow.
Who needs choreography when you got a ship that won't stay still?
Now we're going to discourage people from going on one of our cruises. Well, that was a small.
Well, fortunately, that was the only of all the cruises we've done. That's the only one I've been on that had any problem like that. It was a smaller ship.
Yeah.
And now they're just big rocks that travel through, and you can't even budge them. Don't even feel it.
I'm looking forward to seeing you in a few days. Our annual Worship Leader Institute, which is just happens one time a year. That week boot camp. That it's so exciting. We have so many nations represented too. That's part of the excitement.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's like London and Singapore and South of Chile.
Yeah, that really is amazing. I'm glad you set up a program to be able to help those people come. It enriches the cultural experience of the week. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so it's going to be an intensive week, and I appreciate you taking time because I know you're busy with your family, your ministry, your church there in Lubbock, Texas.
Yeah,
but
Broadway Church of Christ. Yeah, come see us.
You've been a friend for so long, and I appreciate you, love you. You're one of my favorite people on this planet that God created, and I want to thank you again for taking time to be my first guest on this podcast. You are the first in the Acappella Musicianary. I consider you one of those too. So that's what we are. So, man, thank you so much. Thank you for spending time with us and sharing your heart.
My pleasure. To God be the glory.
Take care, my friend.
Love you, man.
Love you too.
Your glory washes over us and you change us. We can never be the same. We're redeemed. We're forgiven by the power of your name. I'm singing hallelujah for your mercy. Hallelujah for your grace. Hallelujah for your presence. We know you're right here in this place.